Hey everyone, Amar here. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about why real change is scary. Very scary. And I would go as far as to say if you're not scared while you're changing, then you're probably not really changing on a very deep level, right? It's maybe more superficial level change. So this is something I've become very conscious of more recently, that the more I change, a lot of fear needs to be cleared. Right? And it's actually a symptom of change. So I wanted to make this video to help you understand why this fear comes up. Hopefully bring your awareness to it. Because like I said, I think if you're not really experiencing this fear, you're not really changing on that core level. And the more awareness you bring to this fear, the more you're going to be able to move through it instead of staying stuck or sliding backwards. So to begin the video, I just want to give you an example, an analogy, which I think paints the picture for real change quite well. Imagine you've been in a relationship with a person for, 20 years, 30 years, a long period of time. You've been married, you've been living in the same house, you've had kids and a family together. And then for whatever reason, you break up, right? You've split up. That would obviously be a very challenging time. You would miss the person a lot because you've known them, you've lived with them, you've had so much of your life with them. So naturally, there's going to be a lot of uncomfortableness, an impulse to go back to them, missing them. And what I'm trying to say is this is what real change feels like. As you really begin to change, there's going to be this impulse for you to go back to where you've always been, right? Everything in your body subconsciously doesn't want you to change. It's clinging on for dear life. And this is one of the biggest reasons people never change. Just like that relationship example, you're just going to keep sliding back to what you know because it's safe. Subconsciously, your mind and body emotionally doesn't want to change. What you're trying to do here is you're literally trying to slay a dragon. Just a little human being trying to slay a dragon, right? That's a real change. So everything in you is fighting against it. And there's you with this sword of consciousness who's just trying to kind of just slay everything in its path and break through. But the impulse to go back is overwhelmingly powerful. And this is why most people will never change. They'll just keep going back to that relationship they had with their old self. And you've got to understand that old self you've had and known for your whole life, right? You've had a certain relationship with yourself for your whole life. Can you see the magnitude of what you're trying to do by really changing? It's huge. You're letting go of something that you've known your whole life. It's the only thing you've really known on the deepest level, right? And this brings me to my next point, and that is real change occurs on this real core level, on the level of your sense of self. So when we say sense of self, that is how you experience yourself on the deepest levels, right? It's probably a feeling or a complex of emotions, thoughts, energies. Everybody experiences themselves in a certain way. So if you were put in someone else's body, you would experience their sense of self, right? And if you were just put in different people's bodies and then put back into your own body, you would think, okay, this is my sense of self, right? That's the level you need to change on if you really want to change. Not on the surface level, which is what I got caught up in. I think a lot of people do. I just want to fix my anxiety. I just want to become more confident. I just want to have more friends or make more money, right? We're always working on this surface level. The more you try to fix things on a surface level, the less you're going to change, right? You need to drop deeper. You need to go to the core, your real sense of self, because all the problems you've got on the external or on the outer level, they're just manifestations of that core. So even if you change things on the surface level, they'll manifest in different ways because you haven't shifted on that core level, on that sense of self feeling, right? And guess what? When you do shift on that sense of self, it's going to feel like you're a completely different person. this is what they say when you won't even recognize who you were. If you could see who you would be in 1 or 2 years' time, if you did real deep work on yourself, your whole being would feel completely different. You literally wouldn't recognize who you've been, right? That's the level of change you need if you're serious about this. That's the level of change you need if you really want to experience things differently on the outer level. In your relationships, in your health, how you show up, right? Because all these things are just the outer level manifestation of what's going on in the core. So deep level change has to occur on that sense of self. You have to change on that level. And that is why it's so scary. Because this sense of self you've got now, you've known it for your whole existence. It's all you've known. And the sense of self you've got or had up to now, you've probably chosen that unconsciously out of fear, right? Your circumstances, whatever you went through, you had to react quickly and pick one way of being, right? And you just chose the first thing that popped up. You didn't consciously make the decision, okay, this is the sort of person I'm going to be. This is how I need to be for me to really live the best life. No, you just chose anything. Because you were young, you were immature, you didn't have much consciousness, you just had to survive, right? So you've grabbed this certain sense of self, right? And now you've built your whole life around it. So when it comes to changing that, the level of fear that's going to come up is going to be quite heavy, right? It's not an anxiety type fear. It's like the fear of doing something new, the fear of going into the unknown, right? And that's why the impulse to keep moving back, to keep sliding back and not actually change is so overwhelmingly powerful. But now with consciousness, we can see, hopefully, that the sense of self we chose, right, who we've been up to now, wasn't actually the best sense of self, the most empowering sense of self that you need to live your best life. And now you can do the work to choose a more empowering sense of self, right? But like I said, it's going to feel so different from who you are now. It's going to bring up a lot of fear. You've got to clear a lot of fear, right? And how I've been doing this as I become more aware of this fear is I literally have to give myself little pep talks, right? Because everything in me wants to keep going back. So all you've got to do is just take the next step, right? You can't look too far in the future because it'll overwhelm you. So just have little pep talks with yourself, right? Just take one step. You've come so far. A few more steps. And you'll turn around and you'll see the person that you've been. And you'll feel that impulse to go back to that. And then you have to have a little pep talk with yourself and say, you know what? We've come too far to go back now. Just take one more step. And maybe a few weeks or a few months down the line, you turn around and the old self, the impulse is still there, still going to call to you, right? You'll turn around, you'll see it. But by now, you'll be far enough away to know that you're going to a more empowered sense of self. A completely different way of knowing yourself. Completely different. This is why it's so scary, right? But as that fear is cleared and integrated, you just grow more and more. You become more empowered. And eventually, you'll experience yourself completely differently. Hopefully, you'll become that person you've always been destined to become. Okay? So, this is real deep level change. Experiencing yourself completely differently from... You can't even imagine what it'll be like. It's completely unknown. So there's a big element of trust there, right? But you've come too far now. So find the courage to keep going, right? Don't go back. There's nothing there for you. I know the impulse to go back is so strong. But why are you doing this work, right? So that is everything I've got to share in this video. If you have any comments, questions, anything at all to add, you know what to do. Hit me up down below. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving me a like, share, subscribe. It really helps me out. Check out my book if you haven't already. And I will put a description down below. But until next time, remember to keep living free and being free. Peace.